Hello, in this video I'm going to try to cover such a sensitive topic as database structure. It's a pretty specific subject because not all users need to know about that, but it will help to solve a number of tasks which may arise when you are using DBM, and also could help to become more advanced user of the application and solve your tasks much easier and faster. Why you should know and understand database structure when you work with DBM? There could be a number of reasons behind that, and the first and the most obvious one is custom reports. When you create custom reports, you cannot do that without knowing which field you want to use, which table you want to link to, how to retrieve data correctly. For example, users ask how to print invoice and then details of that invoice. I'm getting all the details of all invoices. Why that happens? Because this happens because user who is working on the report and not fully understand how data is structured in the database. Another possible reason why you want to understand database structure is some development of some custom, for example, applications to export and import data from or to DBM database. Also, sometimes, very rarely, but this could happen probably, is possibility to use some external tool to search for some issues and in the database. For example, if you experienced SQL Server user and you know how to write SQL queries, you may want to use your custom tool to retrieve some data, find some information, edit it, remove something, or add or fix some problems with the database. I'm not sure what it could be exactly, cannot provide precise example, but everything could happen, and such cases may happen. So actually, to understand the database structure, it is not necessary to use some specific tools. You can just run DBM and go through the screens, and you can understand how everything is structured just from watching on UI. For example, if we will go to reference data, open, say, fuzzy schemes, and you will find that we have a table which contains name of the fuzzy scheme and nothing more. So the only characteristic of the fuzzy scheme is name. But if we open it, we can find that it contains some nested table named fuzzy types, where in this table we list which fuzzy types are included in this fuzzy scheme. We specify sort order and some adjustment factor for that fuzzy type, particularly for this scheme. When we add a fuzzy type, we enter sort order like 1, 2, and then select fuzzy type from the table of fuzzy types. This means that we use foreign key in terms of databases to link data from fuzzy type table. And then again, simple data type factor, we just provide some number here. Internally, fuzzy scheme record has not only name column in this table, but it also has ID. Every record in DBM in any table has ID field. This ID contains some GUID, which is unique and cannot be repeated through the database. So this is a key field, and by this field, application can find out different records like that. Each record in fuzzy types table also has ID key, and this fuzzy type column, in fact, you will see this soon, it contains not this information like no match or 15%, 50%. It contains ID of linked fuzzy type. An application searches fuzzy type by that ID and displays its name here in the UI. This table has one nested table, but for example, if we will go to vendors and open some vendor, you will find that it may contain multiple nested fields, nested tables. For example, if we switch to languages tab, you can see that we have table with native languages, table with supported language pairs, table with services provided, with specializations, and etc. And in the database, this is structured like we have a table for vendors and separate tables for languages, for services provided, and they will be called like vendor languages or vendor services. In fact, it is called not vendor but contractor. This table in the database is contractor, is named contractor, and this one contractor language, contractor work type, contractor specialization, etc. Because previously we used this term, not vendor but contractor, and inside database names remain the same, but in UI we changed to vendors. But in most cases, everything is self-explanatory. Say if you want to find analysis import settings table in the database, then it will be named like analysis import settings without spaces, of course. For clients, we use customer table, for and etc. Expense types, it will be expense types. Fuzzy schemes will be fuzzy type kit, fuzzy types, language combinations, language, message templates. So almost everything is obvious and straightforward. The same for translation jobs, for documents. Also, all the fields here you can see like columns, language pair, list of services, amount, translation project. Also, it has almost the same names in the database. So, how to view data and how to find out this information, which we see here on the screen in a real in the database file. Let's make some example. Let's take fuzzy schemes as we opened it already, and it's pretty simple structure. We have default fuzzy scheme. So which tools you can use to view data? First of all, which I wanted to talk about is Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. As you know, if you use SQL Server database as a database for DBM because it supports other databases like PostgreSQL, then you should use, for example, pgadmin utility to view the data. Here we can, this tool is free. You can download it from Microsoft website, and when connected to SQL Server database server, you will find databases node here. You expand, you find your databases, and for example this one, or which one we use, and we can find data here. And for example, if I will scroll through the tables, you will find that we have this contractor table, contractor language, milestone, price list, service, test piece, etc., customer category. So everything can be found here in this list of tables. And when you right click on any table, you can view this data. For example, if I will find fuzzy type kit here, right click, select top rows, then I will find that fuzzy scheme, which we just saw in example in UI, and ID column for that field, for that record. Details, fuzzy type kit detail. If you remember this ID, 6BEC, and if I select top rows from fuzzy type kit detail, you can find out that each record has its own ID, and then fuzzy type kit has the same ID everywhere, which means that we are linked to that fuzzy type, default fuzzy scheme. Also, fuzzy type column, it contains ID of the linked fuzzy type and sort and factor as you saw it in UI. And then, for example, if you want to understand which fuzzy type is used here, this ID 500FA, if I will open fuzzy type table and select rows, you can find that we have these fuzzy types in the database, and you can see that this fuzzy type is linked with that record. So of course it's not very useful, easy to use that, but we have first of all, we have custom queries here where we can use joins and get correct not IDs but fuzzy type name, for example, here. But that's for advanced users. That's not the goal of this video to explain that. So this tool I showed you, and you can use this tree to like examine the structure of any table. Like you can open translation job table, for example, open columns, and you will find all the columns fields which we have in this database with data types like date time for date, unique identifier for ID, or text field for created by, etc. For some fields you will find that they have key icon, which means that for this field foreign key is used, and this will contain some ID of data contained in some foreign table, in this case in the customer table, like that. However, what I wanted to show you, in addition to this Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, there is a tool which I have found recently. It's named DbSchema. It's not free tool, but it has free version, and I'm going to show you how it works, and it's very user-friendly and interesting for usage. So when you launch it, here is how UI looks like. When you launch it, you can connect to a new database. You click Start, you select your DB engine, then some driver, so it depends on your configuration. Select computer, server, host or IP, how to connect, port, and database. The same database, TBM4, as I showed in SQL Server Management Studio, and then click Connect. Then this application will offer you to select tables which you want to get on your design surface. If you will be repeating the steps and doing the same, I recommend to go through the tables and deselect some of them. For example, like app setting or audit item automation rule, which this table is from TBM5, and it wasn't removed because of migration support from TBM5. Or chat message, because we don't even have still chat functionality in the application. So some tables could be removed. Which else we can remove? Let me recommend you. Default price can be removed because we use price lists now. Event, detail view layout, no need to edit. Dashboard data, dashboard layout, you also do not need it. File data, also from TBM5. Outdated table. Which one? What else? File attachments, you also can remove it. Job template, we do not need it. This one, these tables with long names and underscores also can be removed because these tables are used for many-to-many relationships. We do not want to see it. List view layout, list view filters, mail message external attachments, also it's not needed. What else? My event, my notification, no need to edit. Everything with permission policy, also not interesting to check. That planner exception doesn't matter if to leave or not. Quote, this many-to-many. Report data, we can also remove it. Resources, this is for scheduler. System message can be removed. Test piece, translation assignment can be that internal attachments like this. User for this, all these fields are for CV information. You also can remove everything from here like that. User, vendor groups, workflows, working field, this is specialization, working type, this is services, XP object type can be removed as well, like that. And then you click OK, application will read your database structure and create such a map. Let me zoom out, and you can see how many tables we have in the database, and all these lines between them, they show relations between these tables. For example, let's take any table, zoom in, what we have here. For example, payment. You can see all fields here. Again, as in SQL Management Studio, data types for each field. And for some fields, you can see this lookup icon. And this lookup icon shows that this table has an index, and this field is a foreign key to a customer table. And when I hover mouse over a customer field, you can see that this line becomes highlighted, and it will lead us to the customer table, where we can find structure of that customer table. The same about currency and payment method. You see it's closer here. So payment method, and linked with payment method set table, which has this structure, which in its turn also has currency, which is linked with the currency table. So all the links you can study, easily study information structure using this tool. And also it provides very interesting feature. If we click model and go to export as, we have generate HTML5 PDF documentation. And this tool can generate this kind of layout kind of page. I will save this page and upload somewhere to Wiki so everyone can download it. And using this single page, we can analyze database structure easily. I already moved all the reference data here to the top and marked them, used green color for reference data tables. And if to scroll down, you can see that we have contractor here, all the links, and nested tables. I moved all nested tables linked with contractor table below. So you can see that we have 9 tables, like contractor language, milestone, unit conversion, price list, etc. And below, orange tables represent documents. We have a quote, translation project, translation job. Here is a structure of each table. And you can see that, for example, translation job has translation job detail, which represents translation job tasks, receivables, and schedule. This one is for workload planner, like that. So this is how it looks. And another interesting feature of this generated document, if we will scroll down, you will find table of contents here, and it contains list of tables. And I can click on any table. It will scroll me down to detailed information about structure of the table. So we can see all fields, data types here, indexes which we have in the table, and foreign keys. So you know that, for example, I clicked on invoice, and this table is linked with currency, customer contact, corrected invoice, and taxes. And we can see that tables are linked corresponding to the selected in that foreign key. So field currency is referencing to currency table by ID field. So if I click on currency here, I will go to table currency and see its structure like that. So very useful, very easy to use, very representative, and everything on one page explains how data is structured in the system. So this was about like technical thing, and let's now try to apply information which we got from here. And now when we have some knowledge, let's build some example report knowing how data is structured. For example, let's build a simple report. Let's take this table, contractor table, and you can see that it has some nested tables. Let's try to build such a report which will display all vendors which we have in database and list all languages supported by that vendors and, for example, services. Let's do this. Let's go to the application and go to reports. Let's create a new report. New one. Let's name it vendor demo report. Okay. New report is created and it is not linked with any table still. Let's go to fields, database connections, table connections, and add a new data source. We have to select contractor field here, and now we have a table contractor which can be used, data from which can be used in our report. Detail band in the report will be printed as many times as the number of vendors which we have in this table. Say, if I will drop some label here, and switch to the preview, you will see that label 1 was printed a lot of times. So as many times as the number of vendors which we have in the database. Let's expand this contractor data source. Let's find full name and drop it to the design surface. Make it with a bit wider. Let's go to appearance. Let's select some foreground color like that. For font, we can make it bold. And now let's switch to the preview again. Now we have a list of all vendors from our database. Now we want to display languages and specializations for each. As you know, as this schema tells us, we have a contractor language nested table. Sorry, where is it? Contractor language and specializations or services. Let's say it will be services and contractor service. So we need to use these two tables for each vendor contractor. To do that, we need in the report, this will be explained in a separate video, how bands in reports are working. We have to go to actions menu and find select detail band here, and then find this button, insert detail report band. So another detail was inserted after our detail band. Now we have to select which data source will be used for that detail report. And we can select contractor language collection. So now this band will be printed for each detail band. And it will be printed as many times as each vendor, as a number of languages for each vendor. Let's go to field list and find contractor language collection. And it provides us some fields: ID, fluency, approved language, and contractor. If we will return here, you can see that we have ID, contractor, language, fluency, approved. So the same structure. Let's say we want to display language name. we expand language, which is a language combination data type. It has language source, language target, and name. We need this name field here. Let's say it will be like that. And what else we want to use? Let's say it will be approved language. We want to see if it is approved or not. So if this vendor passed some tests in this language pair or not. Like that, default label can be erased. Also, I can show you that for this checkbox, which was created for Boolean field by default, we can find glyph options here in the properties. And instead of standard box, we have yes, no, or something, radio button, smiley, thumb, and like this, heart. Let's try to generate report again. And you can see that for each vendor, we can now see which language pairs are supported by them. Like that. As I remember, some of vendors has, yeah, this one has passed test piece in this language pair, like that. So checkbox. Instead of checkbox, we have field heart here. So now we've got a list of languages. For this report, we can, for example, insert header band and draw some header like language name and approved. We can select both, and then what we want to do, we can add a border, for example, or some background color like that. And let's decrease the height, switch to preview, and now we have a nested table, language name, and languages are listed. The same can be done for second table for services. We again click insert detail report. You can see like that. Insert header. Let's do copy paste. And we have to link this detail report with second nested table. It will be contractor service type. And let's see which fields we have there. Let's expand service collection. We have service, source language, target language, and comments. Let's say it will be service name, like this. And for example, comments, like this. And we can write this down, make smaller, and we can change, for example, background color, like that. And now if we will switch to preview, we now get a report which displays all our vendors with their languages and services. It has now more pages. So this is knowledge-based approach to report creation. For we took vendor field, and we can do the same for invoices, for example, our translation jobs, for anything. So using custom reports, we can build some not only simple reports which display some data. We can use a lot of different elements here, like let's say we want to do something different. First of all, let's remove these two bands. I just select them and press delete. And detail band. Detail, and let's say we want to add some chart, for example. And we do not need detail because we want to display chart only once. So I added a report header, and detail can be made just small. So what we can do, let's maybe select different data source, like translation job, for example. Now we have this table as a source for our for our report, and we have a chart here, chart element. Let's move it to the table header. And here we can use a designer to create some chart. What we want to do? We want to select data source, translation job. So let's go to series, add a new series, and let's say we want to use bar. And now we have this kind of bar chart, and we have to use to specify some what we want to display here. So for argument, we know that we have a customer field, and this field has foreign key. We can expand this customer, and for sure we will find name field here like that, customer name. And for value data members, let's say we want to select probably amount like that. A lot of properties here can be configured. For example, if I expand view, we can change bar distance, we can add some border like this, thickness, visibility, true. So we have a borders now, some fill style, empty or gradient, options of gradient, top to bottom, color 1, color 2, like that. So now chart looks like this. I click OK. And now when we switch to preview, we get some chart built using data from the translation job table. So this is how it works. I won't be talking a lot about custom queries, about data export and import. The main thing which I wanted to share here that it's pretty easy to read the structure. Everything is usually self-explanatory, and the main concept needed to be like understood to correctly work with the database and with reports is that we have tables, we have foreign keys, and fields. When you see something in the application UI, like when you select something from the drop-down list, this means that foreign key is used for such field. This information is linked with the customer table using ID field of that table, and by knowing this, you can manipulate data and dig into nested fields as needed. Because imagine that we have translation job, it has a client, so we have access to a client from the translation job. From the client, we again have access to nested translation jobs table, which contain linked with that client. And this chain of links is indeed infinity. Say if we return to our report, I didn't save it. Yeah, I saved it. And if we go to field list, translation job, if I expand customer here, you can see that this customer has translation job collection. If I expand translation job collection, we again have a customer, and this endless connection between data. So I hope that this video was useful for you, and it is now much easier to start working with the structures, with reports, and it will be helpful in your work. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in next videos. Bye bye.